Good morning everyone, or good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is you've chosen to watch this thrilling video. Anyhow, more importantly, welcome back to SurelecTV. So today's video is going to be about electricians' test equipment, predominantly my FLUKE 1654B multifunction tester, which I have right here. So I'm going to give you quite an in-depth review of this, pros and cons, what I like, what I don't like. But I've also got a few other bits of equipment. So I've got my FLUKE 1654. Oh, what are you talking about, you? I've got my FLUKE 117 True RMS multimeter with me as well. I've had this since I was an apprenticeship. Bloody hell, get your words out. I've had this since I was an apprentice, so it's a bit bruised and battered now. It's probably seen better days. Still works perfectly fine though. So yeah, I'll give you a quick talk about that as well. Another piece of FLUKE equipment I have is my FLUKE fault alert voltage stick non-contact, quite controversial. Yeah, I'll get into that a bit later on, but yeah, quite a handy piece of equipment. Last but not least, not actually FLUKE, believe it or not, is my NuLec voltage indicator. Good for safe isolation. You also require it if you have an NIC, EIC annual inspection, or Stroma, NAPIT, whatever scheme you're with. So yeah, I'll give a quick talk about that. Obviously the reason for this video is I've done a few ICR videos lately, so a few of you have asked me to do a review on my test equipment, well mostly my multifunction tester, so that's the reason for the video basically. You probably noticed this room, I've done a review video in here before. That's actually because I'm at the big rewire again today on a Saturday unfortunately. Just carrying out the last kind of second fix bits really. Second fix? First fix. Well yeah, I think I'm still asleep. Carry out the last bits of the first. Carry out the last bits of the first fixing. Still not sure if that makes sense, but anyhow. So yeah, I've finally got the kitchen planned, so I'm going to get the first fix completed in there today. And then I'm not back till the second fix. So yeah, enjoy the video, and I hope it's informative. Yeah, enjoy. Alright, so let's get started. So in my hand I've got the FLUKE 1654B multifunction tester. I've owned this now for 2 years. I got it as soon as I started the business. I bought it second hand off of eBay for about £400 I believe. Although it was described as used, it still had all the protective film on it, no scuffs, nothing, so I don't think it actually had been used. So a bit of a steal there really. It is actually discontinued now, but I have looked online and there are a few places online selling it brand new still for about £650. So if you didn't want a new one of these, they are still available to buy. So yeah, this meter comes within a nice standard FLUKE carry case, nice and hard, protective. Inside there is a little foam insert where your meter sits. Also within that box you get a nice little pull-out tote, and in there I just keep my my leads. So I've got red, green and blue leads, a little socket null continuity thing, and then on the top of the box you get this little clip up bit here, and in there you get so I've got a set of extra probes there if I need them. I've got my crocodile clips, I've got a wandering lead, and I've got a couple of connector blocks. So just standard kind of test equipment stuff really. So this meter is actually battery operated, so within that box I keep a box of pretty high-end batteries in there. If you use the decent batteries it lasts a very long time, so it's not actually the end of the world. Just to add, I'm not actually a FLUKE fanboy. I did do my apprenticeship using a Mega MFT, which had all the Bluetooth, the all bells singing one basically, rechargeable. So yeah, that's a bit of a disadvantage of this one. You can't obviously recharge the batteries, but like I said, if you do use decent batteries, it does last a very long time. So yeah, not the end of the world. So an overview of the meter, obviously multifunction tester. Reason for this is obviously it can do a full series of different tests. You can actually get different meters which will do just single tests, so you can get an off-fault loop impedance tester, You can get an RCD tester, you can get a voltage indicator, you can get an insulation resistance tester. But obviously these are a lot better because it's all in one meter, and it saves obviously carrying around loads of different meters and having to get them all out when you're carrying out tests. So yeah, these are quite beneficial. So yeah, pretty standard. On and off button in green down there. It's got a nice little light button. When you do turn it on, I do a load of little self-tests, as you can see there. Makes a few clicks just to let you know it's testing. So you've got a light backlit screen, which is quite good, especially if you're working in dark factories or commercial units. Sometimes they're not the brightest, so that's quite handy. You can actually turn it on and off as and when you need it. So yeah, nice clear display, very bold writing, easy to tell what it says. It's very clear when it comes up with readings. So yeah, nice and simple to use. So I'm just going to run you through each of the tests. So the first setting I've got it on is the voltage. Obviously this measures the voltage wherever you're probed onto, basically. So at the moment I've got two probes stuck in the back. They're all colour coded. So that one's the neutral probe, obviously, because it's blue. We've got the PE, which is the earth, and the L, which is the red, live. Each one is also marked with L1, L2. I don't know how well you can see that, for when you're doing your phase rotation tests. So yeah, all you would do with these probes is say stick on live and earth, and that'll come up with your voltage, and that's about it really. When you have got that in, you can also do a battery test just to see what voltage you've got on the batteries. So 7.2 volts DC if you hold that button down, and that'll tell you how you're doing on your batteries. So that's that test. Next test is the insulation resistance. So you set your dial on to insulation resistance, plug in your two probes. So I've plugged in my red and earth probe, green earth probe, and you'd literally just put them on two conductors, select the voltage you want. So you start off on 50 volts, 100 volts, 250 volts, 500 volts and 1000 volts. So generally I test on 500 volts, obviously depending on the circuit I'm testing. Press test, and in an ideal situation it should come up with greater than 500 mega ohms, so that circuit would be in fact clear. As you can see at the bottom, when you do press test, it ramps up the voltage, so it doesn't do that voltage straight away. This kind of helps sometimes, just in case something is plugged in, it won't put the full voltage on it. So obviously if you did have a fault with the resistance on that circuit, just to demonstrate, if I put this crocodile clip on this red probe just to mimic a dead short, if I press the test, that should come up with 0.00 mega ohms, and there is actually 500 volts flowing through there at the moment. So obviously be careful not to touch, and it does come up with a little lightning bolt on there just to let you know that there is 500 volts going through them leads when you're pressing that button. So that's that insulation resistance test. So right, next test is continuity, is what it is basically. So if I was to, it literally just measures continuity again, obviously same two leads, red and green. If I put that clip on there and press hold down test, that should measure the resistance of them leads, which is 0.00, because I have already zeroed them. So if I take that zero off and then press test, the actual voltage of them leads is 0.14 ohms. But obviously before you do any testing, you want to zero the leads just to make sure your tests don't include the resistance of the leads. So all you need to do on this machine is press 0. That will quickly measure that. Hold down 0, sorry. That will quickly measure that, and that will take it into account when you part them for your readings. So now if I press test, greater than 2000 ohms, because they're obviously separated. So that's that test. Right, so I'm just going to show you the next test, which is the no trip earth loop test. So this is ideal for testing earth loop on circuits which have got the RCD on them. It won't trip the RCD, allowing you to get a reading basically. So all I'm doing for this test is I've got my plug adapter in the back plugged in, all three probes that goes round, and to one of my temporary plugs on, or sockets on the wall here. So all you have to do on this is press test. Now, because it's doing the no trip test, it does take a bit longer than the high current one. One of the pros of this unit is it doesn't take too long at all, really. I think there are meters out there which are a bit quicker, but there you go, it's up there already, 0.25. Down the bottom it gives you your prospective fault current down there as well. If you want to measure between different conductors rather than the live to PE, you can actually do live to neutral, and then that'll give you your short circuit, prospective short circuit current down the bottom. So if we press test again, so that measures between live and neutral, but it does give you your short circuit, prospective short circuit current down there of 1.1 kA. And while I'm here, I'm going to put you on to the high current test and just show you how much quicker it is on the high current. But if you have got an RCD on the circuit, it will trip it out straight away. So change that back to live PE. And there we go, 0.27, done quick as that. So yeah, the high current is obviously a lot quicker. The no trip is slower, but that does save it tripping out any RCDs if they are protecting the circuit. So the next function of this meter is the RCD trip times. So when you're doing your tests on your RCDs, just make sure they're tripping within the required times. You literally just set it on your trip, and it's got an auto function on here, so you can see there it says auto, and all you do is plug that into a socket, for example, press test, and that will run through all the tests, half times, 1 times, 5 times on each side of the wave, and then display a figure on there which you can just run through by pressing up and down here. So yeah, that's quite handy. That means, say if you're working in a commercial building where the fuse board is miles away from the circuit you're testing, and you want to test right at the end, you don't exactly have to stay with the meter. You can plug the meter in somewhere and stay at the fuse board and flip the trip up every time it trips it. Or likewise, if you're at the fuse board and you clip all 3 probes onto the terminals needed, you can just press auto, and then all you need to do is flick the breaker up every time it trips it. So yeah, quite good. Again, while I'm on the subject of RCDs, next test is the RCD ramp test. Again, that's quite good for seeing at what milliamps the RCD will actually trip at. If you've got a fault maybe on the circuit and you think you might have a sensitive RCD, that is a test to use, and that will ramp up the milliamps until it does trip, and it will display it on there. And then you have your RE test, which is your earth electrode test. I haven't actually got the pros for that, but that is very good. That'll literally just measure the resistance of your earth electrode. And last but not least, and quite important, is your phase rotation test. So literally all you do is flick it onto phase rotation, and then up here you have all 3 leads, dots up there. And as I mentioned earlier, on each of these terminals you also have L1, L2 and L3 marked to them. So if you put all 3 of them probes onto the desired terminals, it should tell you along here whether they are all in the correct sequence. So yeah, that is basically all the tests of this meter. So another little thing to add, this also can do polarity. So say for example you're testing the earth loop, it will let you know which leads are on which terminal. So if there is incorrect polarity, it will come up with a couple of little arrows on there just to show the probes you've got plugged in on what they should be, basically. So say you've got your neutral on the earth, it will let you know on there. Say you've got your live on the earth, it will let you know on there by a couple of different arrows. So that does actually, this machine does actually prove polarity as well. So I just want to show you the next bit of equipment, which is the FLUKE 1654B multimeter. I've had this since I was apprentice, as mentioned, so it's probably about 8 years old now. My old employer bought it for me. I think at the time it was about 180 quid. So they're not particularly cheap, but it is definitely worth it. I keep it in my tool bag. It does actually fit quite nicely in these work pockets. Don't know if you can see that on there. So if you're walking around site, quickly testing voltages and stuff, it is very nimble. Very solid. It comes with this protective shell, nice rubber protective shell, which easily pops off. And the battery is just stored behind there. I've had to tape everything together because, like I said, I have dropped it a few times. But it is very hard wearing. I'm very impressed with it. It's served me well, and I'm sure it's got many more years. So once I get this case back on, I'll show you exactly what it does. So it's got the kind of the normal functions of a multimeter really. So you've got your voltage on there. Well, that's your AC voltage. That's your DC voltage, millivolts. And then you've got your ohms, so your continuity. So put them probes together and that will tell you their 0.1 resistance in them. You've got the options, obviously higher or lower the range there. You've got a min max, you've got a hold option. Next function is your audible continuity test, so that'll just let you know with a kind of a tone every time there's continuity between conductors. Next one is diode tester on the voltage DC. Not entirely sure what that one is, or the next one actually, but you've got volt alert, which is basically non-contact voltage alert, again same as a voltage pen basically. Can't say I've ever used it on here. Yeah, like I said, this is quite a handy one just to keep in the tool bag, very nimble, easy to use. So yeah, some of the key features, like I said, it's got the non-contact voltage indicator, which I can't say I've ever used, but when you do that, it comes up with this little red thing up here, so it will display a red LED when there is voltage detected. So it's got low input impedance, helps prevent false readings due to ghost voltage. It's got large white LED backlight to work in poorly lit areas. I think the backlight on mine is nearly had it because it's not particularly bright now, but it is still there, so it does help, but not as good as it was when I first got it. It's got true RMS for accurate measurements on non-linear loads. Measures 10 amp, 20 amp overload for 30 seconds. It's got the option for resistance, continuity, frequency and capacitance. Obviously that's what the diode tester's for. It's got a min max average with elapsed time to record signal functions. Compact ergonomic design for one-handed operation. As you can see, I'm holding it with one hand. It has got the adapters on here to test, so you can put that in there, hold that on one probe onto one terminal and put the other probe on another, so that's quite nifty. Yeah, overall very good little multimeter. Right, so my next bit of test equipment in this video is the Fluke, what's the model number of this? Volt Alert 1AC-E. So this is a non-contact voltage indicator. It also gives a nice little flashy red light while it's testing. Just show you that. So that flashes away just to let you know it's ready to test. And then when you do touch that on a live cable on the sheath and anything, that'll glow red and also give an audible tone. So that literally just turns on by that on and off button, and hold it down to turn off, and that'll give you a notifiable little beep. So yeah, these are quite controversial. A lot of people don't like using them at all because they can't, sometimes they're not very accurate. You can't measure anything with them obviously. But the main thing I use them for is just to prove, say if you're cutting away cables in a flat for example, you might be cutting away the lighting cables above the room you're working in, but they might also supply, there might be cables run through there for the flat above. So say if you made that whole fuse board dead, this is a good way just to check exactly what cables you're cutting through from which fuse board, because this will let you know if a cable, say a twin and earth cable, is live for example. So they are quite handy, they are quite quick, but you should always rely on obviously safe isolation before one of these. These are kind of just an added little feature really. But nonetheless, good little bit of equipment most electricians do use, so yeah, probably worth having. So last but not least, I've got my voltage continuity tester here. So this is ideal for safe isolation. The reason for using one of these for safe isolation is there's no settings to touch. There's no chance of you having it on the wrong setting, not reading exactly what you should be for proving when something's dead. So all you have to do is hold your thumb on the little metallic button there. Hold that, say put one probe on your live, one probe on your earth for when you're proving something's dead, or the whole phase of sequences. And then all it is little LEDs on here will let you know the voltage it is. So it starts off at 12 volts, 24 volts, 50 volts, 120 volts, 230 volts, 400 volts, and then 690 volts, as you can see on there. It also gives you a little audible tone as well when you're on live terminals. Obviously, when you're doing safe isolation, a lot of people use proving units to prove these first and then prove again once you're tested. But all I normally do is prove on a known supply somewhere else, the incoming terminal of the main switch. For example, so yeah, these are something every electrician should have. A lot of electricians probably don't use them really that much until their annual inspection comes around. Yeah, I won't say any more. But yeah, obviously a good thing to have, or a good thing that you should have and use quite frequently, to be honest. This one's quite nifty as well. It has got a little light on there for seeing in dark fuse boards, cabinets, whatever you need to. So that's just an extra little button on the back if you need to use it. Right, so that's the end of this week's video. Sorry if the actual footage is a bit fake. It's quite easy for these videos to start running away from you time-wise, so I don't want to make it too long. I hope I covered everything, shown you enough you need to know about the meters. Obviously, all of them meters every electrician should have, really, not necessarily Fluke. There are obviously other brands available. Most of the time it is down to personal preference. Like I did say, I did used to use Mega at my old company, but to be honest, I've changed over to Fluke and I enjoy using them just as much, so it is just down to personal preference. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Again, leave any comments down below. Anything you do want to see, just let me know. If you want to know anything more about the meters, any questions about them, let me know down there and I'll reply to those. Thanks for all the likes recently. Keep liking away. Please subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, again, you can see most of the work I do on my Facebook page, which I will put down the bottom there, SurelecTV Electrical Limited. And if you're interested, there's actually a little competition going on there at the moment to win a England football shirt, if that's your thing. All you have to do is like my Facebook page, share the posts and comment what you think the score is going to be for England's first World Cup match in the comments. That's all you have to do, and I will announce the winner on the 19th, which is the day after their first game. So yeah, again, thanks for watching. Please keep watching, leave comments, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers guys.